Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. About 10 minutes before the would-be assassin Cole Thomas Allen from Torrance, California, tried to get into the White House Correspondents banquet and stormed the security at the entrance, he sent a manifesto, a reason why he was going to try to kill the president and cabinet officers, to his family. And we have that now, and it's been released. And it's curious, it is a petri dish of all of conspiracy theories, all the lies, all the rage that's been promulgated by the left. And it really is confirmatory evidence that when the left threatens people and they come up with these crazy ideas and they endorse violence, there are people who are very susceptible to that. And this shooter was one, and he proves it with his manifesto. He says he wants to kill Donald Trump for 3 reasons: that Donald Trump is a pedophile. There's no evidence that Donald Trump has ever had sexual relations with any child or anybody under 18. Where does he get that? He gets that from the conspiracy theories of the left and some on the right, that the Epstein files were suppressed because Donald Trump was engaging in sexual relations with young girls. There's no evidence that he ever did that. In fact, we have testimony from his consort, Miss Maxwell, that Donald Trump didn't do that, and other people, young women, had said the same thing. The second thing, he said he's doing this to kill a rapist. Well, he should have remembered that George Stephanopoulos, who used that term falsely, forced ABC to pay a multi-million-dollar damage settlement to Donald Trump. That comes from the trial in which the judge in the E. Jean Carroll trial said that Donald Trump was guilty of sexual assault, and a jury in New York found him guilty, although it was a very tenuous evidence. But they never said that he was guilty of rape. The judge conflated the two and said it was almost the same, but it wasn't. They deliberately, despite all the evidence that he had not committed rape, because E. Jean Carroll's testimonies were unreliable and kind of outlandish, to tell you the truth, he was never convicted of a rapist. But that was the charge that George Stephanopoulos and much of the network news ran with. He also said, third, that he's going to kill Donald Trump because he's a traitor. Well, where would that come from? That couldn't come from the 2-year, 3 years, actually, the Russian collusion caper, when people such as, I don't know, James Clapper, former head of the National Intelligence Agency, said that he's director of national intelligence. He said that Donald Trump was Putin's puppet. And people as diverse as former CIA Director Hayden or John Brennan, CIA Director, they all said that Donald Trump was basically a captive of Vladimir Putin. And just to set the record straight, Mr. Mueller spent nearly 2 years and found no actionable evidence that Donald Trump had colluded with the Russians. If anybody was hard on Vladimir Putin, it was Donald Trump. During his tenure and his tenure alone, in 4 successive presidencies, Putin didn't dare to go in Ukraine. He had killed the Wagner Group in Syria. He had okayed offensive weapons to Ukraine that had been canceled or put on hold by people like Joe Biden and Barack Obama. He had told the Europeans, do not deal with Putin on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Please don't do that. He got out of an asymmetrical deal. I could go on, but the idea that he was a traitor is ridiculous. He said his targets were cabinet officers and Donald Trump only. He wasn't going to kill the security unless he had to. But he said not Kash Patel. And later on he will mention that he is half black and half white. You get the impression that he feels that maybe Kash Patel is a prominent as the FBI director is not identifiable as white. In other words, he seems to be racially obsessed. And he mentions his race, and we know where that comes from, the saturation of race, DEI, DEI, DEI. He also says that he is acting on behalf of all the people who are raped in the detention camps. We know that on accompanying minors were let in mass during the Barack Obama and Joe Biden years. And we know that the Homeland Security under Donald Trump is trying to find these people. There is no mass rape in detention camps. And if that did happen, it did not happen under the Trump administration. He's trying to close the border so that trafficking of young girls and boys does not continue, which it did in mass under Biden, but especially under Obama and especially Biden. He mentions teenage girls again. Well, the teenage girls comes out of the Epstein files. He comes up with the Marx Engels social murder defense. In other words, he says, yes, he's breaking the law, but he's breaking the law because officials of the law and the system is unlawful. And so then he's readdressing that. Where did he get to that? Couldn't be from the left and the glorification by independent journalists like Taylor Lorenz, or once again Hassan Piker, lionizing, canonizing whom? Well, it was Luigi Mangione, who killed the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, shot him in the back, murdered him, and then he became a folk hero. They even tried to make an opera about him in San Francisco. He became a folk hero to the left. And that sent a message, another message to people who were on balance, like Mr. Allen, that if you kill Donald Trump, you will be in the pantheon of leftist heroes, just like Luigi Mangione is. And more importantly, you will be in the moral and legal right, because once you've established that you, as God and judge and jury and executioner, can determine who is a social enemy of the people, then you can then execute him, and by executing him, you will help the people. That comes out of the long tradition of Marxist ideology, but more importantly, it's been revived by the left lately, who say to all of us, if you commit murder, as Hassan Piker has mentioned with Mangione, or if you assault people, or if you steal things, it's not a crime. You have the right to do all of these things because the system is criminal and has oppressed you. Let me just finish by saying, obviously, Thomas Allen is unhinged. He's crazy. He may be bright by graduating from Caltech, but he didn't seem to be very bright in his manifesto. But what he wrote as an exegesis of why he was doing it is an encapsulation of ideology that's promulgated by today's left. All of the conspiracy theories, all of the lies, all of the excuses, all of the justification for violence, it's all there, and it didn't come out of the head of Zeus. This man was influenced by people who traffic in these lies and these ideologies and these detrimental and very dangerous assumptions day after day after day, even when they're warned day after day after day that what you're doing is very dangerous. And we know how dangerous it is because this is the third attempt to kill Donald Trump within 2 years, and he has 2 more years on his tenure, and we should expect at least 2 more unless the left doesn't wise up or find a moral compass and stop what it's been doing. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Signal. Please like, share, and subscribe to be notified for more content like this. You can also check out my own website at victorhanson.com and subscribe for exclusive features in addition.